Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 3. Now let's start the fanfic. Time. Sakura called out as Naruto rounded the track outside of the school for the 4th time, and that's 2 minutes, 45 seconds. Damn it! Naruto shouted with his hands on top of his head as he took a bunch of deep breaths showing a bit of exhaustion. I need to get faster, he said, huffing and puffing before setting himself back down in a running stance to prepare to run again. Mark me, Sakura-chan, I'm breaking 2 minutes and 30 seconds this time, Dadbayo. Instead of calling him out to let him run his laps again, Sakura just stripped the vest with the parachute and the weights attached from his back and held it up. Naruto, it's been 20 minutes and you're running a full mile in under 2 minutes and 30 seconds consistently. I've got to keep trying to get better at what I'm good at, Sakura-chan, Naruto said as he pushed himself up and stretched his legs out. The tournament I'm entering is at the start of the year, and it's past the middle of October. I've got to get the skills I have airtight. The under 2 minutes one you ran last week was a total anomaly. You'll never break that again. Sakura looked at the vest in her hands distastefully. Not again while you're wearing this thing, anyway. She threw it aside and it formed a small crater and a dust cloud upon hitting the ground. How'd coach even let you mess that resistance vest up the way you did anyway? Because the parachute wasn't enough to slow me down too much by itself, Naruto said as he and Sakura went back to join their other friends in gym class. With a grin, Naruto walked past many of the male students that had stopped to gawk at the freshman running faster than any other recorded person even with a parachute on his back. In case you were wondering, that's what speed looks like. Sakura rolled her eyes as Ibuki ran up to them from where she had been before. Speed, huh? You want to race me sometime? I bet I'm faster than you, she teased, poking him on the nose to set off his little temper that she had gotten used to pushing the buttons to by now. You wanna race? Naruto replied with a challenging grin after rubbing the spot on his nose where she poked it. Bring it on. I'll leave you right in the dust, Ibuki-chan. I don't have the parachute and the weights on either, so bring it. No, 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 no. Sakura grabbed the shoulders of both ninja before they could take off running. All I've been doing is watching someone faster than me run around a circle for half an hour. I'm not about to watch the two of you make me feel even slower, she complained. Why don't we ever play baseball during gym? Or why don't we ever just spar like normal? All Naruto ever wants to do during gym is run. Speed isn't everything, you know. A thumbs down came from Ibuki at that suggestion. For a ninja, speed is kind of important. It's also because I hate baseball, and we can never get enough people to play. A mischievous smirk crossed the young Kunoichi's face, who wants to play baseball with a pair of ninja that can jump 15 feet in the air and steal bases without needing to get a jump on the pitcher. You're not very nice with the home runs either, Sakura-chan. She started looking around for someone else though. Hey, I haven't seen Kei-chan all period. Where is she? Kei-chan found a way to get herself excused from gym for outside activities, Sakura said, something about her allergies. I didn't know she had any. Really? Her eyes then widened in realization. Wait, Kei-chan doesn't have allergies at all. But she had a signed note from a doctor and her mother. What? Naruto said abruptly without being prompted. What are you talking about? I didn't forge Kei's mom's signature and a fake doctor's signature because she gave me a coupon for 6 months of free ramen. You're crazy, Sakura-chan. Ha 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 ha, Naruto said with a sheepish grin. I didn't say anything about you. Sakura gave Naruto a reprimanding stare that had him sweating bullets until she sighed and ran a hand over her own forehead. What am I going to do with you, Naruto? You're going to get yourself into some serious trouble one day. Ibuki rolled her eyes and pointed a thumb at Naruto. Once again, he's a ninja, Sakura-chan. We do things that would get us in trouble if we get caught, so we just don't get caught. Kei-chan is smart enough to know better than to say anything about it. And when I do get caught one day, you can tell me that you told me so, and I'll shut up about it, Naruto said to Sakura as they made it inside and split up to head to their separate locker rooms for boys and girls. See you guys in a few minutes. With that, Naruto went into the boys' locker room and went right to his locker to change out of gym clothes back into his uniform. Hey, Uzumaki is in the top 50 fighters in Japan after the new polls went out. Wasn't he barely breaking number 75 during the last poll? Yeah, but there's a story going out that he called out Edmund Honda and fought his way through an entire stable of sumo wrestlers just to beat Honda himself. Then I heard he broke his arms to teach him a lesson for not coming out and fighting him directly. Naruto palmed his face and shook his head. What a stupid rumor. A whole stable full of sumo wrestlers. He seriously hated the dirt sheet aspect of that website, as when confirmed fight specs were minimal there would be tons of speculation over what happened during them, and the posters on the site had a serious case of overactive imaginations. I heard he won that fight, then got down on one knee to propose to some girl, right there on the spot. That dog. He hangs out with the strongest girl in school, her cute friend, and the new girl too. And that was all he wanted to hear out of the peanut gallery. I didn't propose to Karin. My back was killing me and I kneeled down. Naruto shouted at the top of his lungs, getting everyone in the locker room to stop changing and stare at him. Guys even started looking at him from over their lockers in other rows, making Naruto feel self-conscious. He quickly changed his clothes and hastily made his way out of the locker room before something weird happened. His last few weeks had been spent by him trying to hone his taijutsu better against a wide variety of sparring partners. Sakura, as a base, and the main one he trained against due to their proximity. Ibuki, when he wanted to fight someone that could match speed with him. Batsu, when he wanted a fight that would inevitably degenerate into a brawl. Naruto was never going to have dojo refined technique, but he could still stand to clean up his fighting style better to maximize efficiency. Who knew when he would fight someone that could potentially punish him like Honda again? An absent-minded Naruto walked out of the boys' locker room and did not notice Ibuki hanging from the ceiling directly above the door waiting on him to walk out, a part of a game they played to see if they could sneak attack the other and then make sure the other didn't get them back in response. And this is when she dropped from the ceiling, directly landing on his back and flattening him right to the ground. Oh come on. That wasn't even fun, Ibuki said as she sat on his back, her tanuki, which had taken up the practice of hiding itself during school hours, chewing on his ankle at the same time. You weren't even trying that time. You're so lucky I wasn't an actual assassin, Ibuki pouted as she stood up and allowed Naruto back up off of the ground. Ow. Naruto mumbled before pulling himself up off of the floor, wiping the dirt and dust bunnies from his face. Sorry. Just thinking about my fights, he said as he picked Don-chan off of his ankle by the scruff of his neck and threw him at his fellow ninja. Ibuki caught Don-chan, who scrambled up her shoulder. She let out a sigh at hearing Naruto's ever-present problem. Ibuki liked to help, that much was true, but she came to school in order to not be a ninja for a while. That was really counterproductive when Naruto asked her to spar after school. Sometimes, you need to take a rest for a bit. Kanzuki-san hasn't sent you on any fights in a while, so you don't have to be on edge all the time preparing for your tournament. Take a break. Doing what? Anything. Anything fun. Anything relaxing. Ibuki shouted at him as they began to walk outside of the school to go home for the day. What do you do when you aren't working or training? It took Naruto a second to think about it, as it wasn't a straightforward question at all. He wanted to say hanging out with such and such, but no matter who he would more than likely bring up, it usually turned into either a training session, a tag-along on a job, or they would somehow wind up getting into some kind of fight somewhere. It was a vicious cycle of sorts. Finally, Naruto came up with an answer that he felt was appropriate for the situation at hand: sleep and go to the arcade. Ibuki frowned. When was the last time you went to the arcade, as boring as even that sounds? 4 weeks. Naruto replied. Upon receiving that half-assed response from Naruto, Ibuki just shook her head, ponytail swishing as she gestured for Naruto to follow her outside where Sakura and Kei were waiting on them. Okay, I think we should call an intervention. Naruto doesn't know how to relax. I do too, Naruto responded, sounding quite offended. No you don't. It's why you at meditating, Ibuki retorted, getting a glowering stare from Naruto. Don't give me that look, it's true. You don't know how to sit still for long enough to get anything out of it. You're going to burn out like I did one of these days. She's right, Naruto, added Sakura, who found Naruto's frown fixated on her from that point. You're busy all the time. Ever since I've known you, all you do is just push, push, push. You never give yourself any real downtime. Kids aren't supposed to do that. Hello. Ibuki pointed at herself, referencing her own repeated, non-stop training since youth. I said they aren't supposed to, clarified the brown-haired female fighter, and Ibuki-chan is right. You need to do something calming every once in a while. Oh, that is such a load of crap, Sakura-chan, Naruto said, not paying this conversation much mind at all. That's like the pot calling the ink kettle black. You train every single goddamn day, just as hard as I do. When I go home you're still training. I've got to train harder than you because I'm playing catch up with skills that aren't mine. If I don't do it, you'll just run away ahead of me. And if you get that far ahead, then how far ahead will I? Sakura defended amicably before Naruto let out a loud groan and cut in. If you finish that sentence with anything involving Ryu, I'm going home, Naruto said, pointing to the rooftops that he just so happened to be prepared to take to in order to split, right now. I'm not even going to listen to the rest of what you have to say. Sakura pouted, knowing that if he wasn't teasing her about Ryu he was probably not even going to listen to anything involving him. He was stubborn like a mule and if she did he probably would run off, fine. But this isn't about me, it's about you. Do something to chill out every once in a while instead of just working. Like go on a date or something. Ibuki interjected again abruptly, you're a decent looking guy, Naruto. If you weren't so hyper-focused on fighting all the time, you could probably get a cute girlfriend. A lot of girls don't really like the whole fighting aspect though, just so you know. Sakura-chan likes fighters, Naruto pointed out, much to Sakura's embarrassment. No, she likes a fighter and that fighter isn't you, Kei said, she doesn't like them all in general. Just one. And we all know who that is by now. The correction from non-fighter got a blush out of Sakura. When were they going to stop messing with her about how she liked Ryu? It had to get old at some point, didn't it? Maybe not, but from K2 it was a little much, but I think Ibuki-chan is right. You do need something like that to teach you to calm down a bit. Just a concerned friend speaking here. In order to try and test this little theory, Sakura made sure she was in plain and clear sight of Naruto before suddenly reaching towards the top of her own head. Her proximity to Naruto upon doing so got him to react as if someone were about to strike at him. His body tensed and he turned towards her to prepare to intercept the blow that was never to be. You see, you are on edge. Calm down. Nobody's going to hurt you here. I like to blame whatever diet he was getting in America, Kei said, nodding to herself as if she had found some kind of point to be made. I heard about all of the sugar and other things those kids get there all the time. Poor Naruto must have been cranked out of his mind before he moved here. It can't be natural for someone to be as wound up as he is all the time. Okay, sure. Let's go with that, Naruto said under his breath with a roll of his eyes. What else was he going to say? Would he say, no, it's actually an all-powerful source of energy inside of my body that wants to destroy all of mankind that keeps me hyper? Because that would have just gone over great, he could just tell without even saying it, I'm not that bad. Yeah you are, all the girls said at once. He needed more friends at that school that were guys and that weren't afraid of him. Getting triple-teamed in an argument by girls was not his specialty in fending off, especially when they all seemed to sync up and say something definite in unison. Clones couldn't fight that advantage, because it would be an artificial recreation, and that just wasn't as effective at all. Until then, he was at the mercy and whim of the three girls as far as this dispute went. Well, fine then, Naruto eventually conceded for his remaining sanity. Sake, since you three are so smart, what do I do for dealing with this? Maybe giving up would make things go easier. I like Ibuki-chan's idea, Sakura said, trying to contribute to solving the issue at hand. You should go on a date. Put those outfits I bought you for your birthday to good use and dress nice for once. She encouraged. A date with who? Naruto responded skeptically. Girls don't like me, and both of you have reasons for not doing it. That's the only reason I can think that I haven't gone on one with either of you before. Sakura had nothing but Ryu on the brain and would compare every boy to him, and Kei was his friend by way of Sakura at first. She and Naruto eventually became friends off of each other's own merits, but it was originally because Sakura was the link that joined them. Of course, that question of who would possibly go do something with him ended with Ibuki swatting him on the back of his head. You're forgetting someone really close to you, aren't you? Think a little bit harder, why don't you? Naruto blinked before squinting his eyes at her. If you're suggesting I go on a date with Karin, you're out of your mind. She'd laugh right in my face, and then the whole thing would be miserable even if she did say yes. It's just not a good idea. No, dummy, I'm talking about me. You. Giving Ibuki a confused look, Sakura wondered just how that entire process would work out. Wait, you always have to get back to your village after school. You only have like 2 hours to do anything afterwards before going home. How are you going to go on a date with Naruto? A sly look came over the kunoichi of the group's face at the question. Oh, all it'll take is a bit of misdirection and cunning. She turned to Naruto with big doe eyes before speaking again. You know that thing you do that can transform you into other people. How well can you make yourself look like me? 2 days later, 4 hours after school's end, Naruto's apartment. This is either going to be really good or really bad, Naruto thought to himself as he stood in his bathroom and finished getting himself ready to go. How he let himself get talked into this stupid idea was beyond him. A date? He hadn't even thought of trying to date anyone ever, not since he had last tried to do so with the Sakura from his world. Seeing how hard that was with someone he had known for years, he didn't really want to try it again in a place where no one knew him. I'm the best damn ninja alive. What's there to think about here? I can pull a date off. Prepared to carry that attitude into whatever awaited him that night, Naruto left his bathroom in more casual clothes than the school uniform he wore day in and day out, only to jump back with a start upon finding someone in his room. Sighing in relief when he recognized the person sitting on his bed, Naruto put his hand on his heart to show the jolt he had received. Ibuki, stop breaking into my house. But it's so easy, the rather cheerful-sounding kunoichi said, sitting with one leg crossed over the other on Naruto's bed, and there's no way I was going to wait outside for you. You didn't have to do that either, Naruto said, crossing his arms over his chest as he looked her over. She still had her hair up in its usual manner, but she wore a black evening dress and a dark blue jacket over top of it. On her feet she had black wrap-around dress shoes and looked very good, as she must have known because she smirked when she caught him staring. Don't give me that look. I thought we were supposed to meet up downtown after you got my clone into place. Ibuki hopped off of the bed with an excited expression on her face. I couldn't wait. And it was easy getting your clone to the village. All I had to do was hold his hand while I had him blindfolded so that he didn't see where it was. It'll be so easy. All your clone has to do is act like me until I can sneak back in. See? Easy. Ibuki grabbed him by his arm and started to drag him out of the apartment. Come on, let's go. Meanwhile, Ibuki's unnamed ninja village. An Ibuki transformed Naruto shadow clone sat in her room wearing her ninja clothes and staring at its surroundings. Ibuki had taken the clone's blindfold off once they reached the outskirts of the village and gave it directions before taking off back to Aohura City, which would have taken her another hour or so to return to. The place reminded him a bit of Konoha, except that the buildings were more of the classical variety than the sprawling city setup that Konoha had. It still had tons of trees and nature, with people moving about at high speeds all around him. It made him feel a bit like he was at home. But he had to remember that there were no headbands to distinguish who was a ninja, because everybody was a ninja. He stayed on edge for most of the time until he made it to Ibuki's place of residence with other students under a particular teacher and got to her room. This place is actually kind of cool. Naruto in Ibuki's form and voice admitted to Dawn as the Tanuki lay on the bed, seemingly not caring one way or the other about anything. I can see how it would drive her nuts after a while though. Living in the cities of this world kind of got Naruto used to the amenities that came with such an experience. While he didn't really watch TV or use the internet too often, there were still tons of things this world had that he did not in his own. Imagine being Ibuki and knowing that those things existed but not being able to get to them. The clone certainly hoped that the boss was able to show her a good time tonight for both of their sakes. But for the time being, the clone was bored. Very, very bored. With no knowledge of what there was to do for kicks in this village, it had nowhere to go but to Ibuki's room, where it planned on staying to minimize the risk of being discovered as fake. Not really the most exciting way to spend time in a ninja village for the first time in over 3 years, but one would take what one could get. I guess she was right when she said that all they do around here is train, Naruto's clone said to Dawn, but mostly to itself before looking over Ibuki's form that he had hanged himself into. The clone said inquisitively, as if it were pondering over the merits and ethics of its next actions before shrugging and placing both hands on Ibuki's chest, more or less groping itself. Man, Ibuki is firm. All the training was what the clone assumed. It certainly did her body good. In response, Dawn cracked an eye from his attempted slumber and growled at Naruto clone for besmirching his owner's form with his grubby hands. Oh, whatever, you stupid rat, Naruto said, still getting a good feel of what Ibuki felt like. You do worse stuff every day with Ibuki, and Sakura-chan just because you're an animal. At least this is technically my body. He could swear the Tanuki smirked at him with a gleam in its eye when he brought up the bountiful chest hugs that it got from girls every single day just for being furry and cute. Yeah, that's what I thought. While Naruto clone continued to fondle the form that it had transformed into and commit it to memory for his creator's sake, a knock came at Ibuki's door that startled the incognito doppelganger. Almost jumping off of Ibuki's bed in surprise, it regained its composure to salvage the situation. Yes. Who's there? Ibuki-chan. Are you alright? You haven't come out at all since you came back from school. Is everything okay? The voice of a male the age of Ibuki and Naruto came from the other side of her door, and Naruto clone quickly responded in Ibuki's stead. Yeah, I'm fine. It's just that the trip back from Aohura City was a bit of a killer today. I think I'll turn in early for the night. Okay. But we've got to get through with evening training first. Come on. Naruto clone blanched. Ibuki didn't say anything about evening training, she just said that he had to be her right down to the letter, and maybe one could construe that with keeping up her training schedule as well. Fine. It was better than sitting in the room all night waiting for the real Ibuki to show back up just so that it could dispel. And maybe it'd be fun to see just what kind of training Ibuki did regularly. Sure. I'll be right out in a moment. Just don't be late, okay? Sanju-sensei's not the most patient guy. Trust me, I know, Naruto said in Ibuki's form before getting up out of the bed amid the snickers of Dawn. Oh, shush up, damn you. With Naruto and Ibuki, Aohura City, outside of a movie theater. The first thing that Naruto could think of to do was something simple, like just take Ibuki to a movie. Rather lame, but he had never really been on a date before and assumed that would be the obvious thing to do. It was entertaining and it gave him at least an hour and a half to think of something else for them to do. She didn't seem to find it a cop-out course of action though, as Ibuki had thought it a great idea and took to the whole thing with gusto. She clearly wasn't very hard to please, and that made for a very enjoyable start to the date. Oh, that's just impossible, Ibuki said, hanging off of Naruto's arm as they exited the theater. The movie they went to see was some movie with a giant monster out to destroy a large city, which led to the conversation the two were having. There's no way that's true. It's really the truth, Naruto assured her with a big grin on his face. I summoned this big, gigantic toad before out of thin air. Bigger than that stupid monster in the movie. I can't do it anymore, I've tried. But I used to be able to. Is it that hard to believe? Yeah, it is, laughed Ibuki with a bright lift to her voice. You can do a lot of weird things like make copies of yourself and turn into other people, but giant super toads. I think I'd be too scared to believe it even if I did see it, she said, before giving him a squeeze. Anyway, what's next? Naruto had taken the time to actually think about it while they were watching the movie and came to the conclusion that it didn't really matter what he thought would be fun. From the way she seemed to just enjoy being in the theater, Ibuki would probably like anything that they did, so in the end he had his own thought of what to do. Why don't you tell me what you want to do? There's got to be a lot of stuff you haven't done yet since you started coming to the city all the time. Her eyes lit up at the suggestion for her to tell him what she wanted to do, as it seemed like she had ideas and then some. Well, I don't know how you'll be able to pull this off, but there is one thing I've really wanted to do for a while. With Naruto's clone, Ibuki's unnamed ninja village. Ibuki's village training was pretty uniform. A lot of the other students there operated a lot like she did, only she was just better at it from what Naruto's clone managed to glean during the training. Still, training in the dead of night was lame. He wasn't feeling that at all. He didn't learn anything secret really, and it was probably for the best that he didn't, in case Ibuki would get in trouble for letting such a thing happen just to go on a date. But Sanju, Ibuki's sensei, kept a keen eye on Naruto clone the entire time, and the clone made sure that its every move was just like he had seen Ibuki do back when they had trained. Apparently he had done a good enough job to keep from being called out because no one said anything. In fact, even Ibuki's friend, a guy wearing a bandana like hers with brown hair under it, and a tight long-sleeved blue shirt with tan GI pants, treated Naruto clone like he was Ibuki. Pretty awkward, but it seemed to work out. All he had to do was get back to Ibuki's room at that point and everything would be copacetic until the real Ibuki came home to relieve him. As the clone went back inside the house where Ibuki was roomed up, Sanju and another ninja watched the students go inside, waiting for all of the students to leave before Sanju spoke up. That isn't Ibuki. It's a good impersonation though. The imposter kept complete pace with the training regimen and didn't even really look winded by the end, excelling much the way Ibuki would have. The man next to Sanju nodded stoically. He had short brown hair with spiky bangs that hung over his eyes and wore a sleeveless ninja bodysuit with white borders, a yellow sash, and a mesh shirt underneath with yellow 4 ounces gloves on his hands. The Nike shoes on his feet offset the entire outfit sharply though. It's very good. Do you want to deal with our guest, or do you want to go track down Ibuki yourself? If you don't have any missions to attend to, I think you should go retrieve her this time. Guy, Sanju said as he started to walk inside. I believe I know who are. Friend, here is. He knows me and he probably won't panic if I'm the one to expose him. I don't believe his intentions are malicious either way. He turned back right before entering the building only to see that the other ninja, Guy, had already vanished and gone off to find Ibuki. A few hours later, with Naruto and Ibuki, Aohura City. You're a terrible driver, Naruto. Ibuki teased as she and Naruto sat on the windmill of a miniature golf course. I thought you knew what you were doing, but you at go-karts as much as I do. Naruto shrugged sheepishly and chuckled, remembering just how disastrous the entire let Ibuki drive a go-kart plan had worked out, mostly as far as the point of himself being behind the wheel went. It was still fun though, and at least he didn't get banned for life. Well, I never drive. I don't even have a license. I just turned 16 like 2 weeks ago. Ooh, you should get a license, and a car too. Something cool. I want to drive a real car next time. Ibuki scooted closer to Naruto while speaking, just for the sake of getting closer to the boy. With another laugh, Naruto barely noticed her move, his attention placed more on coming up with something else for them to do before it got too late and Ibuki had to go home. Why? So you can crash that too. You'd better get your own license if you want to drive any car I ever get. He then noticed that she had gotten really close to his side, but still scrunched himself closer so that he didn't overstep any bounds. The night had gone good until that point and he didn't want to risk screwing it up by being presumptuous. Ibuki smiled gently at him. You know, you can put an arm around me if you want to. You look so nervous right now. It wasn't any use trying to hide what he was trying to do or not to do from her, because his eyes told anyone that was paying close enough attention anything that they wished to know at the moment, and Ibuki could see in his eyes that he wasn't sure how to handle her getting closer. You haven't been on many dates with a girl before, have you? Try none. But the option was taken out of his hands when Ibuki grabbed his right arm and placed it around the back of her waist to keep her close to him. Okay. Don't ever be that guy, Naruto, Ibuki said as she leaned into him. You're overthinking things. Don't do that, just go with the flow. And things are flowing nicely right now. That's what I like about you. I know so many ninja that are uptight and don't just roll with the punches of whatever happens. You're like water sometimes. You go your own way, and if someone tries to change that path or get in the way, it had better be a real force to actually make you do it, or else you'll make them pay for trying. Wow, that was certainly not seen coming by Naruto. So, did you read that somewhere or did you come up with it on your own? He responded in kind with a grin on his face. Oh, so that's how you want to play it, I see. Despite the playing growl in her voice when she made to retort, Ibuki's smile signified that she was still having a good time. You know, I wanted the whole date experience when I got you to go along with all of this. I more than likely won't be getting the whole walk up to my doorstep for a good night, but I guess that would be too normal for me. I guess it served its purpose in the end either way. Naruto didn't know what she was referring to. What do you mean? If you don't know what I'm talking about, then I'm not going to tell you, Ibuki chirped. That would defeat the entire point of even doing this in the first place. Naruto was too old to pout about anything, but it did make Ibuki laugh when she saw him do it. Don't worry about that. Worry about me. I'm still your date, and I want to do one more thing before I have to go back home. So, she had another idea of something she wanted to do. That was just alright with Naruto. Her last idea was a pretty fun one, and he did want to make sure that she had a great time while out with him. Anything you want. What do you want to do? You're making a bad habit out of stretching your time away from the village for your schooling, Ibuki. Both Naruto and Ibuki looked up to see a man in a red outfit standing atop a windmill blade above them with his arms crossed and an emotionless look on his face. Oh, come on, guy. Ibuki shouted up at the man. I was about to go home. You didn't need to come all the way out here. Her face was red as she thought about what Guy had almost been there to see her do. I was helping a friend. Guy's face didn't change as he continued to look down at the two. You seem to be awfully comfortable for someone that's supposed to be doing something like helping a friend. Well, damn. Apparently, Ibuki was busted. But his clone had never dispelled to warn him that they were in trouble. There might be a chance to salvage the situation and run some damage control to keep her from getting into too much trouble. Lying to this guy wasn't going to work. Naruto could just see that this was one of those guys that didn't accept excuses, especially the kind that he was prepared to make about losing track of time. Look, this whole thing is my fault, Naruto said, trying to dump a significant portion of the blame onto himself as he stood up from beside Ibuki. Guy's stern gaze immediately snapped over to him. I'm responsible for this. Do you think that our lifestyle is some kind of game? Guy asked Naruto as the young blonde teen had caught his attention. I'm aware of who you are by way of what Sanju has said about you, and I have to ask the question. Just what do you think being a ninja is? You do common household chores, odd jobs, street-level grunt work that would be better served for a gang enforcer. And you call yourself a ninja. It's not just the way that you fight that makes you one. What was with the dull tone when he was eliciting some kind of superiority stroke on him? He rubbed Naruto the wrong way right off the bat, and from the scowl on Ibuki's face she wasn't particularly a huge fan of this person either. Hey, just because I don't do the same kinds of things that you doesn't make me a fake ninja, Naruto remarked with a frown on his face. I don't have a village to give me my missions or to fight for, so I've got to do my own thing. If you don't like me, I don't care, but don't insult me. Being a ninja is all I've ever done. What's your problem anyway? I said I was sorry, and she's ready to go home. Guy jumped down from the windmill blade to Naruto and Ibuki's level where he stood slightly over Naruto's head. Ibuki is a model kunoichi, or at least she was until she met you. These mistakes are becoming more and more frequent in a short time. And I'd go as far to say that you could be the problem. Me, Naruto said, pointing to himself as if Guy was possibly talking to anyone else. What the hell did I do? I'm just trying to get along here. Ibuki's focus has been skewed, and her dedication to our lifestyle has been lacking, Guy said as he started to pace around Naruto, and here I find her with you. What do you think that tells me? That real ninja work's been bust down to the glorified stalking of a 15-year-old girl, Ibuki quipped, quite unpleased at how her night was turning out due to the interruption from one of the highest-ranking people that didn't even belong to her village. Why are you even involved with this? You're not even from the village. My master is a friend of your own clan's leader, and I consider him a friend as well, Guy said, fixing Ibuki with his stern, business-like demeanor. I am your elder in this case, Ibuki. And your current attitude surprises me. You're slipping. I'm stronger now than I ever was, Ibuki assured Guy. I haven't been slacking off at all. As a matter of fact, I've been training right after school most days just like I'd have been if I were at home. I just do it with my other friends, while she would rather do other things than train as long as she was outside of her village. She had to admit that training with the others was more fun, and Naruto's a plenty strong partner to work with. Sanju-sensei should have told you how good he was if you were set on coming out here to mess up our date. I thought you called this you helping a friend out. It was. It is. This was simply flustering the younger female ninja beyond normalcy. It's a date that's helping Naruto out. He saved my life from an entire platoon of Geki clan ninja. I can go out with him if I want to. Looking down, Naruto found that the other denizens of the miniature golf course were staring in interest at the three people standing on the windmill, and he decided to interject. Can we take this somewhere else? Both Ibuki and Guy then noticed the situation and nodded before they all jumped from the windmill elsewhere. With Naruto's clone, Ibuki's unnamed ninja village. In order to entertain himself until Ibuki returned and he could dispel Naruto's cage, Bunshin started looking around her room and wound up in her closet where he saw nothing but different versions of her ninja outfits and her school clothes at first glance. Then after much more searching he found her stash of regular clothes. So this stuff is like contraband or something? He asked the Tanuki Don aloud as if the creature would give him a response. You're such a crappy listener. If I had a pet it would be cooler than you. Knock. 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 Asterisk. Yo. I mean, yes. Naruto's clone verbally backtracked hastily before giving a tentative thumbs up to Don, asking if that was going to slide, only getting a derisive snort from the small mammal. He seemed to historically have a lot of problems with Tanukas. At least this one didn't want to kill him. Or did it? Ibuki, it's Sanju. Yes, sensei. What can I do for you? You can open the door and let me in for one, or is there a problem? Naruto's clone blanched but couldn't just leave the door closed if Ibuki's sensei wanted to see her. That would be suspicious, too suspicious to risk doing. It was time to see how well he could actually act like Ibuki or he was screwed. He walked over to the door and opened it up to find Sanju standing there. Hello, sensei. Do you need something? Nothing important, Ibuki. Sanju said as he walked into the room and looked around to find Don looking at him with great interest as to what was about to happen. I just figured that I would come here to tell you. He shut the door and turned to Naruto clone before clearing his throat. I already know that you're not Ibuki, isn't that right, Uzumaki Naruto? What? You're crazy. He saw Sanju move to strike him idly and simpered back before dropping the transformation. Alright, I'm not Ibuki, damn it. How much trouble is she in? Sanju adjusted his glasses on his face as he looked the Naruto clone over. He's stuck in a situation where he himself could be punished terribly for his presence in a forbidden village, and yet he cares more for Ibuki's fate than his own. Of course, Sanju did not know that this Naruto was just a clone. Thus he found Naruto's attitude to be admirable. It all depends on how much she is letting herself neglect her own ninja responsibilities to goof off like a normal schoolchild. Oh, Naruto clone said before relaxing his hands behind his head with a squinty gaze at Sanju. Well, if that's all, then everything's cool. I train with her all the time after school. She's not getting weak. Trust me. So, am I in trouble? I'll take whatever it is. I just want to know. Sanju shook his head and Naruto clone grinned. Good. Oh, and I don't know how to get here, by the way. I was blindfolded, if that matters. Later. Ibuki should be back like 2 hours after I do this, and with that, the clone dispelled in a puff of smoke, much to Sanju's surprise. What a strange boy, he observed. With Naruto, Ibuki, and Guy, Aohura City. All three ninja reconvened outside of Naruto's apartment on the dark, quiet street outside when Naruto got the message from his dispelled clone and turned to Ibuki with a smile. Ah, you're not in trouble, Ibuki. Sanju figured out my clone wasn't you and busted us. But he says as long as you can prove that you aren't slacking off, it'll be fine. Great. Ibuki chirped happily, giving Naruto a big hug at hearing news. That good, that'll be super easy. I can wow Sensei in the morning with how good I've gotten, and then maybe he'll even take the stupid curfew off. Guy idly wondered just how Naruto was able to get that kind of information, but remembered that Naruto had someone in disguise at the ninja village that could probably contact him from that far away. But he had his own things to worry about at the moment. Who said anything about only wowing your sensei? He said, getting Ibuki to stop hugging Naruto to stare at him in confusion. I want to see just how good you've become, or just how much you've let yourself slip. The two younger ninja looked at each other and then at Ibuki's attire for the evening before she let out a sigh. Well, I guess I had to change out of these clothes eventually, she said before quicker than Naruto could notice she relieved herself of her evening wear and was instantly back in her normal ninja gear. The entire process took less than a second. I was looking to putting off getting back into this stuff before the date was over. Naruto blinked at the fact that she had completely switched her attire before he could even notice anything. How did you do that, and where were you keeping the extra clothes? Completing her transformation from civilian Ibuki to ninja Ibuki, she pulled up the face mask portion of her under-outfit bodysuit at her neck as she winked at Naruto. Oh, that's not very important, is it? A girl has to keep some secrets, after all. She then pointed at Guy and put a serious look on her face. If you really want to dance, then bring it on. Guy's face didn't change from its normal expressionless appearance as he slid himself into his fighting stance in acceptance of Ibuki's challenge. Wait a minute, Naruto said as Ibuki moved away from him to the center of the street to fight Guy. You're going to do this here? Right in front of my place? He eventually gave up on trying to convince them otherwise and got out of the way, making his way to the top of his apartment complex to watch. All right then. Kick his, Ibuki-chan. Ibuki nodded as she got into her own ready stance and waited for the right moment to begin going head to head with Guy. No impatience could be shown in her first approach. This was meant to show that she had grown as a ninja instead of regressing, and she was going to show that venturing outside of the village as much as she did was helping her. Still as a statue, Guy stood. It was clear that his patience was finely honed and he would not be the one that made the first move based solely off of impulse. He could stand there all night if he wished. Ibuki was not going to win a waiting game. And she knew that. Hence, why she chose to risk attacking Guy first. Ibuki rushed Guy down in a zigzag pattern on the street only to come in from his right and leap in with a spinning axe kick that he sidestepped as he began to engage Ibuki up close and trade strikes with her. Guy's standing offense consisted of heavy usage of backhand strikes with his lead hand to disorient opponents for a stronger strike from his right hand. But Ibuki was fast, using short punches before springing out of Guy's potential range, forcing him to pursue her a bit. Getting sick of being kept at range by Ibuki, Once she sprang back the next time, Guy did not allow her the space she needed to dictate the pace of the fight. Hayagaki, fast run. In a show of blinding speed, Guy rushed straight ahead, slipping well within Ibuki's comfortable choice of distance and slid at her legs, delivering a kick that sent her head over heels to the ground. Upon being flipped by the kick and landing on her back, Ibuki immediately rolled to her front and unleashed a barrage of shuriken that missed Guy as he rushed at her again and showed off how he was significantly faster than her, dodging her attacks and rushing right at her again. Ibuki got off of the ground and attempted a spinning backfist to prevent him from attacking her again, but Guy ducked it and delivered a double punch to Ibuki's body that had her stumbling back, holding her stomach. She lashed out with a high kick in response, but Guy blocked the stiff attack with his forearm, shoving her back and pressing forward with his attack again. Instead of engaging in another close-range contest with Guy, Ibuki jumped right over Guy in a corkscrew motion to get behind him. While in the air, she unleashed kunai aimed at Guy's blind spot, but he was able to turn and avoided them. This gave her the opening she needed to safely land and attack him without having to deal with a counter-attack of his, Kazegiri, Wind Gilly. She delivered a jumping high kick that Guy blocked, but she used her second leg to turn it into a bicycle kick that caught him under the chin and popped him backwards, knocking him to the ground. Taking advantage, Ibuki rushed him, but Guy rolled through to his feet and jumped into the air to deliver a nasty spinning kick with multiple rotations, Bushin Senpukyaku, Spiritual Warrior Whirlwind Leg. The series of jumping spin kicks hit Ibuki in the face at least 3 times and knocked her back to the ground instead. Do you surrender? Why would I quit? Ibuki responded as she stood back up, slightly shakily, and faced him down again. I'm going to make you eat dirt in just few seconds. You're not getting another chance to attack me again, Guy said before launching at Ibuki to continue his onslaught. Instead of engaging him directly, Ibuki turned tail and beat a hasty retreat, jumping off one of the cars parked on the side of the street and off of the side of a telephone pole only to come to rest on another one. Narrowing his eyes at the girl, Guy swiftly ran right up the pole she had just jumped up, forcing Ibuki to jump from it and unleash a massive amount of weaponry from her arsenal, Kazumi Suzaku, Mist Vermilion Sparrow. Guy didn't let a single weapon touch him, but Ibuki did not get disheartened by the failed powerful attack as she landed on the edge of a nearby apartment complex rooftop while Guy charged on the telephone line itself right towards her. She formed an afterimage to confound Guy, but he was not fooled and he made her pay for it. Getting close to her again, Guy delivered 4 punches before backflip kicking her into the air. Crouching on the ground, he disappeared in a dust cloud before appearing above Ibuki to finish her off. Nothing personal, Ibuki, but this is a lesson for you. Bushin Goreizenpujin, Spiritual Warrior Roaring Thunder Storm God. He reached to grab Ibuki for a piledriver but only found an afterimage in her place. What? You really thought I'd let you hit me 5 times straight and wouldn't have a counter handy? I can see why Naruto always says this, don't underestimate me. Above Guy, Ibuki was even higher in the air than he was, holding multiple kunai in her hands that she let fly at Guy as he turtled up to block them. Not a one even came close to truly harming him outside of light scratches on his arms and legs because that was not the true purpose of the attack. Gotcha. Ibuki used the attack of kunai as a feint to deliver an elbow smash to Guy's jaw that she transitioned into her falling with her knee in Guy's back, forcing him face first into the rooftop. Goodbye, Guy. Hashinsho. Whoa. Naruto jumped up from his place where he had been watching the fight, as it had wound up on his own complex's roof, and ran over to where Ibuki had slammed Guy into the surface. What the hell was that? You never used that on me or Sakura-chan. Ibuki sat down and let out a deep breath. Of course I never used that on you. You're my friend. That's a nasty finishing technique, not something you do on people that you like. She then jumped right back to her feet when she saw Guy start to get up. Are you kidding me? You should be out cold. My body is tougher than you think, Guy said with blood trailing from his lip, nose, and a cut on his hairline. I can take more than you expect me to. He saw her prepared to keep fighting and he waved her off. I don't need to see any more, Ibuki. You've proven that you are still improving, even with the distractions of your normal school. Pulling down her face mask to show a nasty bruise on her cheek and under her jaw, Ibuki gave Guy a relieved smile at finding the fight to be over. I've got some people to help me think outside of the box. Even when I'm not in the village, I'm picking up different outlooks on fighting from my friends. Naruto's one of them, well, for better or worse, whether she liked it or not, being coaxed into training with the never-stop pair of Naruto and Sakura regularly worked for her, and for that she was thankful. Guy took a long hard look at Naruto and got a stare right back from Naruto, a proud smirk on his face as he had just watched his friend vindicate him with her skills. I see. Regardless, it is time to return to the village. Ibuki. He turned his back on both Ibuki and Naruto and crouched down, prepared to leave. I will have to test you one of these days, Uzumaki Naruto. It won't be in a short battle like it was with Ibuki. It will be to a definitive finish. As Guy leapt his way off of the roof and began returning to his home, Naruto ran to the edge of the building and shouted after him, "Oh, it'll be a short battle, alright. Because I'll put you down in 30 seconds, Dadbao." He then turned back to Ibuki and looked at the cracks in the roof from her last attack on Guy. Man, I'm going to have to fix that for free. Ibuki walked up to Naruto and faced him with a sigh. Tonight was fun while it lasted, Naruto. Thank you for taking me out, even if it didn't end the way I kind of thought that it would. Wait. He knew that the whole running into Guy and fighting him thing was a serious damper, but throughout the entire night Naruto himself was wondering if an Aohura City rival would run into him and kick something off that way. He had been prepared for the night to end in a manner such as this. Ibuki had to have been as well, as nothing ever really went as planned for people like them. How did you think it would end? Naruto asked her, shoving his hands into his pockets idly. There was something else I really wanted to do that we didn't really get to before Guy stuck his nose into this and screwed everything up, she said with a despondent look on her face as she shook her head. Oh well. Oh, so he didn't give her the best time he could have in the end. That was kind of deflating. Naruto figured he'd done a great job until the end. Ah, I'm sorry, Ibuki-chan. No, it wasn't anything that you did, Ibuki assured him cheerfully with a few pats on his hand. As a matter of fact, I guess I can still do it right now if I wanted to. It was damn near midnight. What in the world was there to do at this point? Either way, Naruto was pretty much game for whatever she wanted and let her know with a shrug, if you say so. Go ahead then. Tell me what it is. He didn't miss the sly look on the kunoichi's face, but at this point she was too close and too fast for him to keep her from doing what happened next, even if he wanted to. Ibuki slipped forward with her hands behind her back and lightly kissed him. Nothing forceful, nothing heavy. Just a regular kiss. His brain more or less stroked off for a moment before registering what was happening. 7 seconds later Ibuki hopped back with a satisfied expression and pulled her face mask back over the lower half of her face before leaving to go home as well. Bye, Naruto. See you on Monday. Naruto stood there staring at nothing for a few minutes, playing back what had just happened in his head before he threw his hands behind his head and grinned widely, chuckling to himself as he made his way back to his apartment. The next Monday, Tamagawa Minami High School. You two seriously aren't going to tell us anything about what happened? Kei asked with a twitching eye as she sat in class with Sakura, Naruto and Ibuki, giving the pair of ninja the evil eye for keeping the results of their Saturday night from her. Was it good? Was it bad? What did you guys do? You can't just leave us hanging like that. It was all of our idea for you to even go on the stupid date. As long as it did what it needed to do, I guess it doesn't matter, Sakura said, looking over at a very relaxed Naruto as she had to fight down her own curiosity about what had happened. So what's the verdict, crazy? Are you still all wound up? Nope, Naruto said with complete confidence. He'd been in a great mood for all of Sunday and even got out of bed on Monday without a needed fuss from Sakura. I'm good. Thanks for making me do that. And thanks for going with me, Ibuki-chan. I really appreciate it. Noticing that Kei was now glaring at Naruto for not having her curiosity sated in the least, Ibuki let out a small laugh before stopping to wink at him. The pleasure was all mine. If you ever get more manic and paranoid than usual again, I'd probably like to do it again. Now by this point, Sakura was in on the fact that there was a significant amount of camaraderie and inside referencing between Naruto and Ibuki and raised an eyebrow. Okay, now I'm asking too. What did you guys do on Saturday? Tell me, Kei more or less demanded. The well-kept gossip in her needed to know. I'm not a ninja and I can't fight, but I will do something if you two don't spill. Sorry, Ibuki said in a non-apologetic manner as Naruto snickered to his heart's content behind Sakura's chair and next to Ibuki's chair with his head on his desk, but every ninja needs their share of secrets. Omake. Mainstream Shinobi. Karin's Aohura City Mansion. This better be really good, Naruto said as he and Batsu walked behind Karin and her entourage as they entered her mansion. We were working on a new idea for a jutsu or a key attack when you called me. In reality, he and Batsu were actually throwing their respective projectile attacks at each other and watching as they blew up. The last one, when Karin actually called, disrupted their focus due to Naruto's ringtone and blew up in their faces. On the other hand, instead of Naruto, who had been there several different times by that point, Batsu was stunned at how large Karin's property was. You live here by yourself? Who the hell needs all of this? Maybe if he could grab one of those nice-looking little statues and get away with it, he could get his mom something nice for her birthday. My actual home is larger, Karin commented idly as she led the way into what looked to be a very large entertainment room with a television half the size of the entire far wall sitting against said wall. I do believe that the reason I called you here should satisfy you greatly, Naruto-san. She sounded rather pleased with herself as she said this. Please, have a seat. Neither Naruto nor Batsu needed to be told twice as they both sat down on one of Karin's very comfortable reclining chairs while she herself sat down on a couch, with Ishizaki quickly bringing her a drink on his tray once she was seated. Why is the super rich girl inviting us to her house to watch TV? I'm not complaining, this is awesome. But what's with this? I invited Naruto-san, Karin specified. You just came along with him. And I would be a bad host to turn away the friend of a friend. You two are friends now? Batsu asked as he looked between the two blondes sitting in different areas. So, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the apparent outright dislike you two always threw back and forth on the phone and that one time I was there in person was just good old-fashioned teenage tension. Naruto stared at Batsu with an unreadable expression on his face before looking to Karin. If I tried to beat him up on your property, could you replace the stuff we break? You would be paying for it. I thought so. Either way, Karin said as she picked up a remote control and clicked the TV on. I have something you need to see. Remember how you always seem to be trying to get work to earn money? Well, people only know of your work from word of mouth. That can only go so far. Thus, I figured that a promotional spot would bring your potential clientele up immensely. The two teen males in the room looked at each other before Naruto spoke up. So, you made me a commercial. Karin nodded and absently took a sip of her prepared drink. Alright, cool. Let's see it. Without needing to be asked again, Karin queued up the commercial and played it on her massive TV. Any problem can be solved for the right price, the voiceover said as there was a shot of Naruto walking down the street with Batsu and a group of their other friends. The focus on him. All you need to do is find the right man for the job. The right man is a child. I don't like it so far. Naruto grumbled at being called a child. How'd you even get a camera on me without me noticing it anyway? I can do or obtain anything I wish, Karin said as if she had repeated this to him countless times already. Keep watching. At that point the commercial cut to different shots of Naruto in fights with various people that had been captured from bystanders and placed on the internet at some point in time, ending with him standing over Dan at the end of their fight a few months ago. If you have a problem, then you can call Uzumaki Naruto, freelance mercenary. Rates negotiable. Nodding at the conclusion of the commercial, Batsu gave his own opinion. It's kind of cool, but it seems like a lot of sizzle and a little bit of steak, doesn't it? I mean, it tells people that he takes work for money, but it makes him seem like a thug too. It doesn't really tell people what he does. I considered that as well. Karin agreed as she hit a few more buttons on her remote to bring something else up. To that end, I had a second commercial made addressing this point. Here, instead of the action shots, this time it had Naruto doing odd jobs like walking a ton of dogs, moving things into a truck with the use of clones, retiling a roof, washing windows, things like that. Any problem can be solved for the right price. All you need to do is find the right man for the job. The right man is a child. If you have a problem, then you can call Uzumaki Naruto, the ultimate chore boy. Rates negotiable. The commercial ended and left the room in silence until Batsu started laughing uproariously. Ultimate chore boy. That's great. Put the second one on TV now. At least put it on the internet. He was then muffled by Naruto getting up and stuffing a couch pillow into his face, though it was evident that he was still laughing. Naruto was continuing his efforts to try and smother his friend with a pillow while looking over at his employer, friend who was trying to hide the fact that she was just about to start laughing herself. Karin, can I have the master file for the second one? I want put it on flash drive and blow it up, he heard Batsu humorously mumble. Ultimate chore boy, from under the pillow and gave it one good punch. Shut up. Winter had a strange sort of comfort to it when one was sleeping. Cold mornings were turned into times when one was stuck underneath the warmth of their covers and sheets to avoid the bite of the open air, especially when one didn't particularly have heat like Naruto did. Hey, Hi no Kuni back in the elemental nations always had pretty nice weather. It didn't really get cold there. Not like Japan. But in order to deal with the lack of heat, Naruto had developed a habit of deep sleeping. People that tried to awaken him by knocking on his door at this time of the year would often refer to this as his hibernation. Mostly because he slept like a rock beyond 8 hours or more at a time, and if you woke him up prematurely he would be very cranky for most of the morning afterward. Wake up, Naruto-san. Snore. Sigh. Wake up, Naruto-san. Aahhhh. The shout in Naruto's ear early in the morning shot him out of bed like a rocket as he stuck upside down to the ceiling of his bedroom, looking around with a crazed glint in his eye. You can't have the hat. It's mine so off. You'll have to pry it from my cold, dead hands, you hear me? Go be a cage like I did if you want the damn thing, you wannabes. What on earth is a cage supposed to be? Is that something significant? Naruto's eyes focused and he looked down from his ceiling to find Karin looking up at him curiously with Shibazaki next to her, having flinched back from his sudden movement, and Ishizaki looking into the room from the doorway as Naruto's room was crowded enough with 3 people in it, let alone trying to fit his large mass in as well. What incredible misfortune. Naruto was having a fantastic dream only for it to be interrupted by the physical mortal embodiment of what he believed to be the devil in a red school uniform underneath a leather coat. What a fitting color for Karin to wear. It was far too early for this crap, at least he thought it was. He didn't know what time it just so happened to be actually. How the hell did you get into my house? Naruto asked, still sticking upside down to his ceiling. The door is triple locked, an added measure after Ibuki kept breaking into his place sometimes just for kicks. She could have just asked to come in, but she found it more fun to just with him by tinkering and breaking through his security measures. Karin was not one to pick locks though, and he doubted that any of her 2 attendants could either. Karin smirked up at him with her hands on her hips in a superior manner. The landlord opened the door for me when you refused to wake up to my knocking. Of course he did. Naruto gave Karin a dry look to show that he wasn't particularly surprised about that. All that money and influence she had was definitely useful for inserting herself into any facet of his privacy that she saw fit to interject herself into. He accepted this though. Okay, next question. Why are you here? Upon hearing Naruto's second question, Karin's pretty face twisted into a frown as she continued to look up at him, her brow now twitching. I cannot believe that you forgot about today. Unbelievable. What's today? Naruto asked before noticing his state of dress, simply a pair of boxers. And Karin apparently had no shame when it came to looking right at him, like she didn't even care. He didn't know quite how to feel about that, embarrassed or insulted. Do you mind? Not really, she returned matter-of-factly. Karin had gone with him into a bathhouse full of nearly sumo wrestlers. If there was ever a time to be mortified by the male frame, that would have been the time, not while looking at Naruto in his home. Though admittedly, the sight of a half Naruto did appeal to her more. Now go and get yourself ready for the day. We need to reach Tokyo by 2 in the afternoon to sign you in. Naruto gave her a clueless look that got her to roll her eyes before answering his unasked question, for the tournament. It was, or should I say is, today. What surprising news. So surprising that Naruto fell from the ceiling onto the center of his bed, breaking the box spring, and potentially his neck from the angle that he landed before depositing himself back first on his bed looking up at the ceiling. Ow. Okay, everybody get out so I can get dressed, after I figure out if I hurt my neck or not. If you injured yourself, you are still fighting, by the way, Karin informed him as she walked backwards out of the room, getting a lift of the arm and a thumbs up from Naruto for her comment. Oh, look. You can move your arms. At the very least you are not paralyzed. Now, chop chop. We have 7 hours to get you to Tokyo and signed in. Cool, I guess. Naruto said as he grabbed his orange fighting clothes and walked into his bathroom. Hey, can I bring somebody? Later that day, Tokyo, Japan. The ride in Karin's chopper was slightly more crowded for their trip back to Tokyo for the tournament. There was also more tension in there this time as well because the bulk of the trip had Karin and one of the people Naruto wanted to bring shooting glares at each other on and off throughout the flight. Yeah, he thought it would be nice to bring Sakura just in case Ryu showed up to this little tournament. He doubted that a big-time drifter, fighter like Ryu would stop wandering and would return to Japan for a little open tournament, but it was the thought that counted. For the other two riders in the helicopter, Naruto and Batsu, the whole female feuding between Karin and Sakura stopped being funny 20 minutes into the trip and turned annoying from that point forward. Batsu offered that they just kiss and make up and get it over with. Naruto then had to make a human chain of cage bunshin to keep him from falling to his death after the girls threw him out. He had never seen them work together like that and it was honestly a little scary. Luckily no other incidents occurred during the flight and everyone arrived safe and sound, because not everyone would probably be leaving that way, i.e. Naruto. And now in an outdoor courtyard at the front entrance of an arena they were stuck in a pretty long line at least 60 deep to sign Naruto up for the tournament he had been directed to compete in at his benefactor's behest. Naruto let out a yawn and looked around trying to size everyone standing there up. He didn't particularly see anyone worthwhile. There were a few maybes, but in the end if there were any people of interest he didn't see them. Even Karin had gone somewhere to wait for him to sign up since she did not want to be stuck in a line full of commoners. But Sakura and Batsu stayed in line with him for whatever reason. Good people, to not leave him there all by himself in the crushingly boring set of circumstances he found himself in. A yawn slipped from Naruto's mouth and Sakura nudged him to make sure he wouldn't fall asleep on them. Why are you guys in line with me anyway? I'm fighting, Batsu said with a shrug, getting a look of surprise from Naruto. There's no real reason not to. I'm here. I'm in the line anyway. It's not like I'm rusty or anything. I train with you all the time. It could be fun, and the money wasn't really anything for a kid in high school to sneeze at. It wasn't anything for anyone to sneeze at really. If I won, I could probably get mom a nice vacation or something. I'm in too. I want to see how much better I've been getting, and this is a great chance for it, Sakura interjected with quite a bit of spirited enthusiasm. It's kind of funny though, huh? I don't even know what kind of tournament setup this is, and I'm jumping right into it. What does that say about me? That made Naruto realize something else as well. Wait, Karin didn't tell me what kind of tournament this was either, other than the fact that it's open entry. Damn it. I told her about this kind of crap, Of course, he had never really taken the initiative to ask her or look on the internet for the information himself, but he wasn't about to bring that point up. Batsu would have hit Naruto on the head, but doing that might have started a large-scale brawl amongst the testosterone-filled populace once Naruto retaliated in kind as he knew his friend would. Well, just find everything out once you get up there. Does it really matter? You fight and you either win or you lose. As long as that's the basis, then who cares? I like to be prepared though, Naruto mumbled lowly. Taking the moment to pick on Naruto, Sakura patted down his supply pouches and pinched his cheek when he started growling at her for the indiscretion. Prepared? You look like you're prepared to fight a war instead of a tournament. Why did you bring weapons? I fight with tools, Naruto said as they nearly reached the front of the line. You know that. I've been throwing stuff at you since middle school. You complained less about it back then than you do now. Why try to use chakra when you could just stab somebody? That was the way he felt about it. I always tried to get you to stop using them though, Sakura replied, tightening her white headband around her forehead as she kept looking through the crowd, hoping to spot her inspiration for beginning her more intense training. But her attention was stuck on her close friend and his use of potentially lethal weapons. You don't need to use those things to win. We've seen that they can be beaten and they just kill unnecessarily sometimes. Naruto let out a loud groan for a topic he had probably been over more times than he cared to return to. They're part of the way I was trained to fight. No style is really better than any other, Sakura-chan, just different. I don't even use my good weapons on people I don't want, I mean have to kill anyway. You don't have to kill anyone, Naruto, Sakura said with a pout. Her chosen method of fighting was potentially very powerful, but she would have never tried to kill anyone. Naruto, from his way of speaking, had obviously killed people even if she had never seen or heard of it. The job he did kind of meant that at some point someone would have had to have died. She didn't like thinking about that. Naruto was not a killer as far as she was concerned. And again, it was a conversation he didn't want to have either because it wasn't something he could make her understand. You just keep on thinking that for as long as possible. It wasn't something he wanted her to understand either. Killing and death were far more taboo in this world than in his own, even if certain amounts of violence were encouraged, like the kind of violence he was about to be engaged in. Upon reaching the small sign-up desk, Naruto gave the person behind it signing people in a smile and pointed to himself confidently. Uzumaki Naruto, signing up for the tournament. I'm ready to roll. Time to kick so me and take some names, Datbeo. Fantastic. The very uninspired person doing the desk and paperwork replied as he began to have Naruto sign his name and other info down before passing another form forward that he was meant to sign. This is going to require your signature saying that any injuries, permanent disability, or potential fatality that you incurred during the C9 Grand Ace tournament is in no way the fault or the responsibility of any of the tournament's sponsors nor the C9 Corporation themselves, and that tournament competitors are not to be persecuted for the things that will happen to you and them. And that any actions taken and consequences occurred during the event are your own responsibility due to your own freedom of free will to be here or not. Compete at your own risk. Ooh goody, a release form. That sounded promising. Damn it, Naruto's entire job from the age of 6 and up should have come with a damn release form, not that he could have really sued anyone or pressed charges in Konoha or anywhere in the elemental nations. It was a might makes right kind of world. Goodness, he missed not having to deal with all of that red tape. Rolling his eyes, Naruto signed his own name on the paper and passed it back only for the man to ask another question. Any next of kin or emergency contacts to notify in case of catastrophic injury. Naruto just pointed his thumb over his back at Sakura and Batsu, just them I guess. Oh, and Kanzuki Karin, if you know how to reach her too. She's around here somewhere, and I'm not giving out her contact info. He noticed the man's eyes go wide at the reference of Karin, and Naruto figured he shouldn't get used to the whole name-dropping thing. It was a bad habit and he hated people like that. So, what now? The qualifying round. Follow this person to get to your match. Now. All three of the youngsters from Aohura City looked at each other before just deciding to go with it. Naruto followed a person in through the front door of the arena, through the halls, and into a secondary venue set aside for lesser events where there were apparently already some observers to watch the elimination process take place. Before they walked through the doors to enter, the man decided to pass along the rules to Naruto. Alright, so there's a 5-minute time limit for this fight. There won't be any time limits in the actual tournament, but we're trying to get the numbers down so if the fight goes all 5 minutes, both competitors are eliminated. Ways to win are by forcing your opponent to surrender, or by incapacitating them. We don't care how. No ring out? Naruto asked, knowing that these tournaments more than likely had rings or some kind of way to keep things under control. The man laughed and opened the door for Naruto to go through. What ring? And when Naruto looked through, he could indeed see no ring, just a speculated area where fighters were supposed to do the fighting with metal guard rails to serve as some sort of formal barrier between the crowd and the combatants. The place was mostly dark in the crowd, with all of the lights being focused on what was meant to go on in the designated area for combat. Good luck, kid. Well, there was no time like the present to get it done, and Naruto walked out through the masses to stand inside of the ring by himself, punching his gloved hand into his other palm as he waited for his opponent. Huh. I guess you sign in on one side of the place or the other and they take you to this room to fight whoever signed in at the same time on the other side. Tricky way to pick elimination matches. After a while, the doors on the other side opened and a cavalcade of kabuki instruments began to play as his opponent walked through the crowd that was cleared for him. A man with white face paint and long red hair attached to a headband that seemed to have small horns in the front walked out adorned in ornate robes. Upon reaching the ring, he took the robes off, leaving him in baggy white pants, blue wristbands, and blue boots with yellow pads on the front. Streamers were being thrown from cheering fans as he broke into a pose after entering the fighting space. Dude, what the? Naruto asked belligerently as the man in face paint began to stretch himself out and the crowd gave applause as the kabuki music continued to play. He gets a whole entrance. What about me? I had to walk in like some nobody. You are some nobody. Shut the up. Naruto shouted back at the anonymous heckling audience member, getting several people near him to recoil at the angry-looking young man. I'm finding a way to get some damn entrance music next round. This isn't fair, he muttered to himself as the PA system came on to introduce the fight. Introducing first, from Aohura City just a few hours away, he stands 5 feet 8 inches tall, and weighs in at 154 pounds. The self-proclaimed greatest ninja in the world, please welcome Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto stretched his legs out during his introduction and raised his hand over his head as light applause came from the people that didn't really seem to care that he was there. Okay, so his opponent must have been famous and he was just the other guy that he was meant to be to advance. That pissed him off a bit. And his opponent, hailing from parts unknown. Naruto rolled his eyes at that while the fans just seemed to eat it up all the more. He stands 5 feet 9 inches tall, and weighs in at 194 pounds. Fresh off of his impressive performance in the CWA Crash Carnival World Tour, where he finished 3rd overall. This is the Great Oni. Upon the conclusion of the announcer's over-the-top introduction, the face-painted man shot some sort of green substance into the air from his mouth that dissipated in the air and caused raucous cheering from the crowd. Alright, Naruto said to himself, not knowing what to say at that point. I don't know this guy, but who cares? Let's do this. You don't know him. One of the spectators closest to Naruto said in amazement, getting a hapless shake of the head from Naruto for his trouble. Man, he's like the best professional wrestler from Japan. Don't you have a TV? Once again, Naruto shook his head and kept bantering with the fan. I do, but TV's boring compared to the stuff I actually do. So he's one of those fake wrestlers then. That's cool, I guess. After uttering that, the whole place went silent and everyone stared at Naruto in abject shock to the point where it began to unnerve him. What did I do? He then saw the Great Oni glaring at him rather heatedly. More than one should be for a simple fight like this. what the hell are you mad about? You called him a fake wrestler, the fan from before pointed out as to why Oni was mad. So, wrestling is fake, isn't it? Naruto asked. Like, people know who the winners and losers are supposed to be beforehand. That was what Naruto kept hearing whenever anyone brought up wrestling around him, at least. He never really watched it himself, even though he felt he probably would have liked all of the pageantry since he never really spent much time at home. And then people started booing him outright. Come on, what did I do now? The fan was holding the bridge of his nose and shaking his head at Naruto, who had incurred the wrath of the fight fans. Yeah, those are rumors. I don't know where you got that from. Oni walked forward, adjusting his wristbands on his arms before pointing at Naruto. I'll show you just how fake wrestling is, buoy. He finished, turning his voice upward in a kabuki-like manner. Preliminary round fight, begin. To start, Oni sprinted at Naruto, diving at him and missing when Naruto moved. Though Oni caught himself and did a direct upward handstand on the guard rail as he stared at Naruto from upside down. Expecting an attack of some sort, Naruto just stood back and watched him, only for the man to remain in the same position, not moving. Well, if he wasn't going to attack, then Naruto would do it himself. The speed of Naruto's rush surprised Oni to the extent that he pushed himself off of the rail into the air to try and circumvent Naruto's attack with a flying stomp. Naruto dodged and had to jump over a follow-up sweep from Oni before kicking him right in the chest, sending him sliding back along the ground into the metal rail. With a grin on his face, Naruto did his own little bit of posturing, creating a shadow clone and facing off with it before it threw a fake punch that barely tapped his face. Naruto sold it as if he had been shot and fell to the ground, unconscious, with his tongue hanging out. His clone quickly covered him and counted to 3 before dispelling. Poking fun at wrestling. Smooth. Angrily, Oni stood up, looking as if he wanted to break Naruto's neck should he get a hand on him for his little act, and flipped onto the guard rail before launching off of it high into the air to crush Naruto with an outright splash. Playtime was officially over as Naruto knew he was coming and jumped to his feet to dodge. Oni saw Naruto dodge and turned his splash into a full roll in Naruto's direction that resulted in a rising mule kick to the face. Naruto got kicked back hard enough to knock over the metal guard rail and gamely spit out some blood before sitting up and seeing Oni charging him down. He then realized that this tournament had no rules and pulled another guard rail in front of his body before kicking it out at Oni, forcing him to stop his charge and stop the guard rail with his hands. Then Naruto walloped him over the top of the head with another heavy metal guard rail and Oni dropped like a stone. The crowd went silent as Naruto dropped the now useless guard rail down on top of the fallen Oni and nudged him with his foot, getting no response. Shrugging to himself, Naruto walked away through the crowd since his opponent seemed to be beaten and there wasn't any reason to hang around in there anymore. The winner and advancing to the main tournament, Uzumaki Naruto. That was a complete physical dissection, ladies and gentlemen. Not the cleanest win, but damn, if that ending wasn't ugly. Naruto heard the announcement as he reached the door and let a grin slip onto his face as he made his way out to find Batsu and Karin waiting there. Batsu had a bruise or two on his face but seemed to be mostly fine as well. Did you win your fight too? Batsu nodded with a smirk and bumped fists with Naruto over the pair, advancing. Awesome. Where's Sakura-chan? There are only 2 auxiliary rooms aside from the main arena for preliminary fights to take place in. Karin pointed out with a bit of disappointment in her tone, this one and the other one on the other side of the building. Guess where I was while you were fighting your fight, Naruto-san. She sounded most displeased that she had selected the wrong room to wait on Naruto's fight. Slightly offended at his own match being overlooked, Batsu crossed his arms and turned away from Karin. Hey, my fight wasn't bad. I think for jumping in cold with 5 minutes after deciding I was actually going to do this, I did pretty good. Next time, I'll fight even better. Be that as it may, it is still irrelevant. I have no stake in your performance exactly, Karin remarked. Good for you though, she said, getting Batsu to hang his head at getting overlooked. No, I came to make sure Naruto-san did not decide to slack off and lose this tournament. I expect nothing but victories. You have the skill. Yeah, whatever, Naruto said, cleaning out his ear and not really listening. It was just going to be the same old song he'd been hearing all fall and winter long anyway. You have to win to make me look good as your sponsor. Or perhaps, if you win that means I win. And if you lose, well just remember that I hate losing. Yawn. Threats only work the first few times. Not after more than 20. Come on, I want to go see Sakura-chan's fight, he started to say before the PA system cut him off after opening the doors back to the room again. Winner. And advancing to the main tournament, Kasagano Sakura. How about it, folks? A 15-year-old schoolgirl from Aohura City, and look at that skill. Who else is from Aohura City in this tournament? Wow. Her fight must have been even easier. Able to see Sakura soaking in the cheers from the perverts that wanted to see her school uniform get torn in the matches, Naruto's eye twitched slightly at what the announcer had said. Ow, my pride. He then turned towards Karin. Why aren't you fighting again? Because I have you to fight for me. It's not the same. Never mind. Hold on a second, Naruto said before pushing and shoving his way through the crowd, throwing a few elbows to get the more rabid male fans out of the way. Move, get out of the way, make a hole, just trying to get to my friend here. Don't make me hit you. He reached the ring and heard some boos due to the fact that he had a Y chromosome before flipping the audience off and picking Sakura up over his shoulder in one move. A mortified Sakura looked at Naruto's back in surprise at the smooth lift, wondering what in the world he thought he was doing. Naruto, what are you doing? Naruto just gestured his head towards the crowd and the door, with the mass of humanity blocking the exit. If you think you can get through them without anyone trying to cop a feel, I'll put you back down and let you walk out yourself. Otherwise, I was just going to scare 'em all away. While she didn't want to be mean to the spectators that had just cheered her on to victory, Sakura took a good hard look at the lot of them and how their eyes weren't particularly leaving her, some of them grinning in a lecherous manner. Stupid school uniform. It seriously brought out the worst in men. Yeah, okay. Get me out of here, please. Alright. Hold your skirt down, Sakura-chan, or don't, Naruto told her before he started jumping over and on top of the heads of fans as he reached the exit door and set her down, getting a hard punch on the shoulder for his skirt comment. At least he gave her a warning that he would have gotten an eyeful. Jiraiya wouldn't have said a word and would have had his eyes turned to the right to get as much of a panty shot as he could have before putting her down. Naruto was at least respectful of his best friend. So, we're all in. That's great, Batsu said, kind of fired up now that the preliminaries were over as far as they were concerned. No more scrubs to fight, and he hadn't gotten to fight all out in almost a year. Now what? Naruto gave him an, I don't know, look in return. Karin flicked Naruto on his ear, getting a cry of pain out of him before putting in her own thought. You could maybe go to the main arena where the tournament officials are putting together the brackets as we speak. As they have been since the moment I walked in the door. Just a thought, she said as she turned on her heel to head to the exact place she had been previously speaking of. Smartass. Both Naruto and Batsu mumbled as they and Sakura followed Karin to the main arena to figure out how the entire tournament would be broken down. If she knew this much about the damn tournament, then why isn't she fighting? Naruto whispered to the others, getting a few snickers out of Sakura. What was that, Naruto-san? Did you just say to dock your wages for insubordination? I'm being good. Damn. 4 hours later, main arena. Apparently more people showed up to enter the tournament and eventually had to be turned away. Aside from that, the numerous fights that didn't have victors due to reaching the 5-minute time limit cut the tournament down extensively. So the kids from Aohura City and Karin's two butlers found seats while they waited for the actual tournament to begin. Batsu had left and returned with an exorbitant amount of food to eat since he had missed lunch. Karin simply sat in between Shibazaki and Ishizaki, who served as her buffers for the common folk, including the people she had come to the tournament with, and Naruto had been sleeping almost right from the moment he sat down. Sakura at first tried to stay active while waiting for the tournament to start, but the boredom was too much and eventually she fell asleep as well, using Naruto's shoulder as a pillow for some semblance of comfort. Karin spared a glance in Naruto and Sakura's direction and frowned at the sight of the two sleeping before choosing to address Batsu, who was steadily chowing down to keep his energy up for his soon-to-be fights. Ikimanji-san, she said, getting his attention while he was barreling through a bag of chips. Just why are Naruto-san and Sakura-san so close? Is it just the fighting? A part of Batsu didn't see why it mattered, but it was kind of apparent that Naruto and Sakura were closer than boys and girls usually were without having ever dated or anything of the like, and could see how it seemed curious to someone like Karin. How many normal friendships could she possibly have had if the stories of the Kanzuki family were as true as she made them seem? It was a question he could at least try to shed some light on. Well, Sakura was Naruto's friend years before he met me or anyone else that he'd even loosely call a friend. She's the first friend he had in Japan, actually. It's kind of a big deal to him. Why, look at Naruto, Batsu said, pointing at his sleeping blonde friend before reaching at his eyelid and opening them to show Karin one blue eye that didn't seem to disturb his slumber. He's a total Yankee. Blonde, tan, blue eyes, well-built kid even back then. The complete stereotype, like he just jumped off of the screen of an American movie or something. That's not even adding in his whole attitude and all that get up and go he has whenever he's actually awake. He's sort of weird. A lot of people in this country don't like that the way they would in America, cultural differences. He just really doesn't fit in. Shibazaki let out a sneeze at that exact moment, turning away from the conversation at hand. See? Like that guy. I bet he hates Naruto hangs out with you. Karin sent a look Shibazaki's way that he didn't turn back around to meet, choosing to make himself look busy by adjusting his glasses and his suit. What exactly do his looks have to do with anything? Karin asked Batsu. He didn't have friends in Japan at first, sure. But now he has more than a few, doesn't he? It doesn't explain why he and she are so close. Yeah, it does, Batsu replied with his mouth full of food, taking a moment to swallow lest he choke while trying to speak. Loyalty, for one. He's like that with everybody. For another thing, she lives right around the corner, probably 2 or 3 blocks away. They would have stayed friends even if Sakura wasn't into fighting. It didn't hurt that she was though. It seems to be how he winds up making friends with everyone else. Really now, Karin said, sounding interested at that point. And how exactly does that work out? Win or lose, whichever side winds up on the short end of the fight, they would have some ill feelings toward the victor. So how did fighting get him friends? It got me as a friend, Batsu said with a shrug as he took a sip of a soda he had bought. We fought each other first before we were cool with each other. Then he helped me with some trouble going on around my school, and that's how it all started. That's kind of how it worked with you two, right? You've fought him before, haven't you? Karin took a moment before nodding. See? It's weird, isn't it? It's like when you finally hit him with your best shot, and he gets back up, you want to ask him how the hell he did it. And from there, it's kind of hard to hate the kid. Karin had to admit, that much rang true. Karin had initially wanted to despise Naruto when they had first met, but she had found it nearly impossible to do once she started coming across him regularly. Currently, she held what she liked to refer to as an indifferent tolerance for him, which was her closest way of saying in public that she considered him a friend. At that point, she noticed that Batsu had stopped eating for the moment and had moved in front of the sleeping Naruto and Sakura with his phone pointed in their direction. What do you think you're doing? Taking a picture of this to send so that me and Hinata can with them both about this later, Batsu said as his phone made a shutter click sound effect to let him know that the picture was taken and stored in the memory of the device. Look at this, he said with a chuckle as he showed the shot to Karin. They look way too comfortable for where they are. After taking a moment to observe the real scene in the picture that had been taken of it, Karin pursed her lips before reaching at her foot to take off her shoe. They certainly do, don't they? She said before winging the shoe and hitting Naruto right in the corner of his forehead. stirring him from his leisurely slumber with a start as his body snapped to readiness and he looked around only to see Batsu holding back laughter and Karin smiling innocently while putting her shoe back on. Did you have a nice rest? I kind of did, actually, Naruto said, looking around to regain his bearings and stirring Sakura from her sleep as well as he rubbed the sore spot on his head. Hey, did a big bug fly into my head just now? Or a bat from the rafters? Something hit me hard. Don't know what to tell you, man, Batsu said, busying himself with finishing the rest of his food so that he didn't burst out laughing. Maybe Sakura headbutted you in her sleep. Oh, okay. The still reawakening Naruto and Sakura looked at each other and blinked once before Naruto's brain finally kicked on its logic portion, which was coincidentally the last system of his mind to turn on after waking up. Wait, Sakura-chan's on the wrong side. She couldn't have hit me from there. Which one of you assholes hit me? Maybe I hit you. What would you do about that, kid? Upon hearing the gruff voice from behind them, Naruto stood up on his chair and turned around to face the person down. If you were in the tournament, I'd wait until we fought, then I'd stomp you. If you weren't, I'd find out if fighting would get me kicked out, then I'd stomp you. He then realized that he was facing down a rather familiar face-painted sumo that he hadn't seen for months. Honda, are you here to kill me? The large, rotund sumo laughed deeply before patting Naruto on the head, not knowing his own strength as he got Naruto to sit back down with the motion. No, I'm not little one, he said, getting a pout out of Naruto for being called little one. I came to watch the tournament. He lifted both of his arms that were covered in soft casts. I may as well watch since I can't necessarily fight like this, can I? Sorry, Naruto said with a flinch at seeing that he was still injured from their fight a few months ago. He didn't really mean to do that much damage, but getting squashed by a 300+ pound man kind of warranted some overkill. Meh, no need to apologize for what was done in a fight, Honda said, dismissing Naruto's concern. The doctor says I'll be all healed up within 2 more weeks. I just couldn't get clearance from my stable soon enough to compete in this tournament. He looked around and saw Naruto's friends, but frowned when he realized Karin was with him and that Sakura was still way too close to him after waking up from their nap. Uzumaki, you really shouldn't be two-timing girls like this. What? Naruto said in confusion before Honda gestured his head toward Sakura and then at Karin, finally giving Naruto time to catch on. Are you kidding me? Didn't we go through this when I kicked your in the bathhouse? Karin's my boss, and she kind of hates me, and this is Sakura-chan. She's my friend from home and she's in the tournament too. Sakura waved to Honda after being introduced as Naruto then pointed at Batsu, and this is my buddy Batsu, and I'm gonna kick his if we end up fighting. Batsu flipped Naruto off with his finger right in front of Naruto's face in response, pulling it back when Naruto bit at it, fully intending to snap the digit off entirely. Ah, you bastard. I'm gonna knock your teeth out when it's finally time. The two butted heads, pushing back and forth as they seemed to be just a hair under coming to blows in the stands. Honda looked over the lot of them and saw that they were all so young. There wasn't going to be anyone else getting involved in the tournament that would be their ages, and if what he saw and felt from Naruto during their fight was any indication, it would be a very impressive showing to say the very least. Thinking that put a grin on his face. I'm looking forward to seeing just what you kids have to offer in the ring. At that point, the main lights went out in the now pretty much filled arena and the lights down in the fighting area took precedence with a large board on the screen hanging above the ring where the names set to fight in the first round were set. Apparently the lineup had been worked down to 16 fighters, which was good with everyone from Aohura City. It was Saturday and they all had to skip for one day just to show up there. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the C9 Corporation Grand Ace Fighting Tournament. Over the course of this one evening we will crown a tournament champion. The winner will receive 5 million yen for their efforts. It's winner takes all, and you are all here to bear witness to this great event. Finally, Karin said, speaking only loud enough for the others to hear as the crowd began to cheer at the sight of all of the strobe and colored lights waving all over the place. I thought they were never going to begin, the way things were going, as Honda took a seat in the row behind the place that the party from Alhura City had taken up. Karin turned towards Naruto. Remember, Naruto-san. I do not care who you wind up competing against. I want nothing less than victory. I'll beat whoever you want, Naruto said in an exasperated tone of voice. Just stop saying that already. I get the point. I'll kick until my legs are broke, don't worry. That is all I ask of you, Karin said, sitting in her chair with an air of satisfaction around her. Easy no. Naruto rolled his eyes, but her message was received loud and clear just as it had been for months. For our first matchup tonight we have first and foremost a young girl from Alhura City. A 15-year-old fighter and a high school student to boot. Please welcome Kasagano Sakura. Upon hearing her name called, Sakura felt her heart jump up in her chest a little bit and smiled before giving Naruto a hug for mutual luck as she got up to head down the stairs to the open floor to fight. And once again the cute schoolgirl factor got her a massive amount of cheers once she jumped over the black barricade that encompassed a massive amount of the floor for a larger, more secure fighting ring. Hey, come on and introduce me already. It's dark down here. A loud, boisterous voice shouted, drawing attention to a darkened stage at the end of the arena. Upon hearing that voice, up in the stands, Naruto palmed his face hard and hoped that it was just some random guy with a very obnoxious, to Naruto at least, voice. Oh, God no, please not him. You've got to be kidding me. Why is he here? The announcer cleared his throat before introducing the person that had shouted for him to do so, and her opponent. On his campaign to show the full power of the Psycho Ryu fighting style, of which he is the creator and the master. Everyone, please welcome the dangerous, incomparable, Hibiki Dan. The lights at the darkened stage flashed on as loud, blaring techno music began to play. A platform rose up on the stage to reveal a kneeling figure covered in a cape, and when they rose and threw it off, it was of course Dan in his usual pink fighting gi as he pointed at the ring and ran right towards it, flipping over the barrier and landing before playing to the crowd that seemed to be loving the pomp. Sakura watched the entire scene with a deadpan look on her face as Dan ran circles around the ring, making an of himself as far as she was concerned. This is the guy that Naruto beat right after school started up for the new semester, the one with the wimpy Hadoken. Dan's ears picked up Sakura's comment and he turned towards her, pointing boisterously at her. That's a different move. Mine is the Godoken. Get it straight, little schoolgirl. It was the same move, just his ed. But that wasn't really important at the moment to Sakura. Careful now, she said with a smirk as she stood in her fighting stance ready to wipe this guy out. You might hurt yourself trying to take on this, little schoolgirl. Ha, Dan said, rubbing his nose smugly. You don't have a chance, sweetie. I haven't lost a fight in years. You lost a fight 6 months ago to my best friend, Sakura responded as if she couldn't believe the ego on this guy. What a blatant lie. Right to her face. I was there in Alhura City when Naruto beat the pink off your gi. A fluke. Put an asterisk by that line in the record books. Having that little spot on his record brought up was obviously a sore spot to Dan from his stomping vehemently on the concrete floor. I had a stomach virus when I fought that Uzumaki kid. But no one ever talks about that. And you're his friend. How'd a rabid dog like that get a cute girl like you to spend time with him? Rabid dog. Naruto's a total teddy bear when he's not all fired up. Sakura said with her hands on her hips, standing up out of her stance. And if you want to talk down to my friend, you can do it after you beat me, if you're man enough, she finished with a bit of a taunt. Chuckling to himself, Dan decided that enough was enough and it was time to give the people a show. Oh, don't tug on Superman's cape. Bad things happen when you do that. You're going down. He shouted as he got into his own fighting stance and saw Sakura get into her own that looked like his, only her legs were further apart and her hands were set tighter than his to react to whatever she needed. Wait, that looks a lot like my stance. Ah, so you're an aspiring student wishing to learn from me, are you? And just like that, Sakura felt like puking at the mere thought. No way. That's not supposed to be based off of anything you did. It's supposed to be based off of Ryu's. It's not my fault you use your own versions of his moves. Did you study under the same master at one time or something? Bah. She didn't care. She could see why Naruto didn't particularly care for recalling his one and only meeting in the past with Dan. If he was able to get her this flustered, then what was Naruto feeling like by the time their fight began? Whatever, the quickest way to shut Dan up would clearly be to render him unconscious. Wow. Sakura was starting to think like Naruto. There was something wrong with that. But she seemed to be okay with that as she attacked Dan head-on with a direct punch that Dan stepped aside narrowly, catching a spinning backfist on the rebound that smashed him in the nose and sent him stumbling back holding the now bloody appendage. Ow. Damn it, why is it always the nose? He said, his voice muffled by his hand as he managed to dodge Sakura's follow-up attempts to strike him again. If there was one thing Dan knew how to do, it was take a punch and dodge them as well. Sakura had to take a few steps back to stay out of the way of some return kicks from Dan and some punches from his hand that did not have a firm grip on his nose to keep the blood from freely spilling out. Having seen Naruto fight Dan months ago, it was in her best interest to remember that Dan had solid basics and she was fully susceptible to being caught with a surprise move. Getting his confidence to rise at getting Sakura to step back on the defensive, Dan decided that it was time to step it up now that he was sufficiently warmed up. Koryukin. Dan attempted a jumping uppercut with a slight rotation, but Sakura wasn't fool enough to stand in the way as Dan got substantial hang time with the attack. Hey, you were supposed to try and counter that somehow. Right before Dan landed, Sakura charged forward, getting a running start to meet him on the ground where she unleashed her own jumping uppercut with a more authoritative spin behind it, Shohoken. The uppercut landed right underneath Dan's chin and popped him up into the air to land flat on his back. Ha, got you right out of the air with that one. Dan rolled backwards from his place flat on his back and back up to his feet glaring at Sakura. That was another one of my moves. How'd you learn this stuff? I got a bit of training from Ryu, Sakura said with a smile, so those moves are kind of knockoffs of his techniques, but they work for what I need them for. It was kind of disconcerting to Dan that a girl that had to be around 10 years younger than him had gotten such skill with techniques the likes of which he trained with for years only to get kicked out before mastering. She hadn't mastered the moves either, but she had polished them up enough to fit her well to the point where it was difficult to tell that her technique was imperfect. You could have been trained by Guken himself, but you won't beat me. Dan said before rushing right at Sakura, shrieking almost like a girl as he charged her and the two engaged in more direct combat. Sakura blocked his first punch and blocked an attempted leg kick by tactically swatting Dan's kicking foot away with her non-targeted one. Not giving up, Dan attempted 2 cross punches only to miss and get knocked back with a double-fisted punch to the chest. Hadoken, Surge Fist. Sakura unleashed a quick burst of her shorter-than-normal range Hadoken and watched in a bit of satisfaction as it connected and knocked Dan back, sending him rolling away like a ragdoll. And that's how you finish a fight. That was indeed not how one finished a fight, because Dan was not finished. He stood back up, albeit shakily, not willing to lose so easily in front of so many. He was Hibiki Dan. He beat Sagat, and that meant something, damn it. Hey, Dan shouted at Sakura, getting her attention before she could exit outside of the barricades. I'm not out of this yet. It's time for my best move. The Shinku Gadoken, shaking sky self-taught fist. Dan built up an incredible amount of ki before unleashing a massive one-armed distance blast of his Gadoken. And much to Sakura's surprise and chagrin, it didn't merely dissipate after moving only 5 feet max. It went further and was locked onto her. The speed it was moving and its size wasn't going to give her a chance to move, so she did the best thing she could and covered up in preparation for the blast to hit. She had shut her eyes, but after a few moments nothing had happened. No pain, no nothing. Epic fail. After hearing a doubly taunting shout from the stands from both Naruto and Batsu, who were visibly laughing their off from their seats, Sakura opened her eyes to see that the Shinku Gadoken had still dissipated before hitting her despite its improved range. Dan was completely beside himself. Of all the lucky, cop-out B.S. technicalities. He shouted seemingly to the heavens, "Why, God? Why? Why couldn't you give me 5 more feet of range, just this once? Why?" He wailed to the rafters of the arena, dropping to his knees with tears pouring from his eyes. With Dan wide open due to his own dramatics, Sakura charged him down intent on ending the fight right then and there. After getting close enough, Sakura hit him with a short jumping uppercut that popped him slightly into the air. She followed up with a second jumping uppercut that knocked him higher and finished with a third spinning jump uppercut that had her ki charged behind it, mid-air Sakura tumultuous cherry blossom. She ed back her second previously unused fist with everything she had while in mid-air with Dan to drill him with one finishing punch that sent him flying well over the barricade and into the crowd. Sakura landed on the ground and looked into the crowd where they scattered and let Dan smash into and bust up a few seats as he lay there motionless with a completely look on his busted up face. Seeing that the fight was officially over, Sakura grinned widely and threw her hand into the air energetically despite the energy she used to make sure she'd finish Dan off then and there. She'd get it all back quickly within a few moments of sitting back down. "Yeah. I'm not getting stopped tonight until I win the whole thing." The winner of her first round match and advancing to the quarterfinals, Kasagano Sakura. Still fired up from the fight and the win, Sakura ran up the stairs, getting past the other spectators to return to her seat where her friends were, jumping at Naruto with a big hug that forced him to stand up and catch her, almost losing his balance, but he still managed to get caught up in her good mood. "You kicked the crap out of that blowhard," Naruto said, putting a hand on the top of Sakura's short brown hair. "That was awesome. I knew you were getting better." Karin smirked as she remained seated in her own chair, having just watched her rival have quite a bit of success. Granted, Hibiki Dan wasn't really a banner victory for anyone decent, but the majority of the people watching didn't really know that, and mass perception was a major deal when it came to being a well-known fighter. "Well done, Sakura-san," Karin said. "Maybe the next time we fight I can actually get some satisfaction out of my victory over you." Sakura turned around and pulled her eyelid down at the blonde heiress. "Says the girl that isn't even fighting tonight. You probably just thought that I'd beat the skirt off of you, again." Almost rising to the challenge on the spot, Karin recomposed herself, remembering the reason for the season, so to speak. "There's no need to fight you here. I have a representative in Naruto-san to do my fighting for me in this tournament. If you two are to fight, he will handle you accordingly. Of that I have no doubt." She still doesn't get the point of all of this, both Naruto and Sakura thought as the next fight was going on while they conversed. And Sakura gave Naruto a look that was labeling him as an enabler. In return he just shrugged back at her with an expression that said all he needed to say on the matter: "She pays." Batsu, though, had no reservations about speaking aloud due to the fact that he himself had never brought the topic forward in Karin's presence. "Having a representative do all of the legwork for you isn't the same thing as doing it yourself, even if you get the same result," he said as another fight began, despite the fact that none of them were paying attention to continue hashing out their own dynamic. How would having Naruto beat Sakura solve anything? You wouldn't be the one doing it. Shaking her head, Karin merely chose to instead pay attention to the fighting down in the ring. It was quite obvious that these people had no understanding of the intrinsic worth that a representative had. Naruto's victory was the success of his benefactor, her, and his defeat was the failure of his benefactor as well. She was tired of explaining that to people. Freaking brat, Batsu thought to himself as Karin was apparently ignoring the lot of them as Ishizaki served her a drink. Whatever, if Naruto was going to work for someone like that, it was his problem. It shouldn't have grated on him personally. But it resonated with Naruto. This was like the whole Konohamaru complex, only Karin accepted it and ran with it. Naruto walked directly in front of her and stood there until she made eye contact with him. I like the money you're paying me for all of this and everything, but you've got to figure this out, Karin. There's something more important than winning. Maybe you can show me what that is sometime, she responded with a slight sarcasm in the inflection of her words. Naruto was usually a pretty idealistic guy, so he obviously believed what he was saying. She couldn't see it though. She had to be successful at everything she did no matter what, she had no other option. Her father watched her every endeavor, just waiting for an excuse to not award his fortune to his daughter. To find some kind of fault or weakness with her, excuse me, if nothing short of indisputable victory is acceptable to my family. That sounded like she was madder than she wished to let on, but it was okay to Naruto. He was more or less hinting to her that she was ignorant about something that was right in front of them. No one liked to hear that, he knew that he never did and still didn't. Okay, I will show you, Naruto said with a confident grin. I'll show you just what's more important than just winning anything you do. Winning's important, but without the other thing, it doesn't really matter. Because if you don't have what I'm talking about, you'll just lose when things get tough. A winner is a winner, Karin said resolutely. If you are a born winner, then it does not matter if one has what you speak of or not. The following contest is the next first round matchup in the C9 Grand Ace Fighting Tournament. Introducing first, from Alhura City, 17 years old and clearly skilled enough to be here tonight by virtue of his victory earlier in the preliminary matches, Ikemonji Batsu. Batsu sighed and pulled a pair of red fingerless gloves onto his hands as he walked out of the row and down the stairs to the open space on the concrete floor. Upon being announced as the participant in the next match, well, here goes me. But feel free to keep on arguing, he said to the others as he waved over his back at them. I'll just win this whole thing while you all keep at it. And his opponent, from Las Vegas, Nevada, all the way from the United States of America. He is the former heavyweight boxing champion of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Balrog. The jaw of Batsu dropped as from the other side of the arena came a very tall and muscular black man wearing blue boxing trunks with white trim, and a torn white short-sleeve shirt underneath a blue tank top. He wore red boxing shoes on his feet and red boxing gloves on his hands with his hair fixed in thick cornrows. You've got to be kidding me, Batsu said, palming his face as this turn of events, the champ. What the hell is someone like Balrog doing here? In the stands. Oh, this is not good for Ikemonji-san. Karin remarked, an intrigued look on her face as she was now watching with interest. What would a boxing champion from America be doing here in Japan for this tournament? It isn't even that prestigious an event. So, this guy is supposed to be good? Naruto asked. He knew that to be a champion this man had to be skilled. But Naruto's belief in his friend's own skill was strong. Titles didn't mean anything as far as he was concerned, meh. Batsu can beat him. A frown adorned Sakura's face as she put a hand on Naruto's shoulder. I'm not really too sure about that, Naruto. The only reason Balrog lost his title was because he was banned from boxing. He kept permanently injuring his opponents, and even killed one before in the ring. He could kill Batsu if he hit him clean enough. That was bad news, because Batsu wasn't exactly the most elusive fighter. He was an acrobatic brawler at his core, and against someone that could kill him with a good enough shot that simply wasn't going to fly for him. I'm not trying to be negative, I'm just saying, Sakura continued, he's really got to protect himself out there, or this could get bad in a hurry. I'm worried. At that moment a large hand was placed on her shoulder from behind, getting her to turn and see that it was Honda. Have some confidence in your friend, the injured sumo said with a smile. Anything can happen in a fight, and even though it's fine, be worried, don't undermine his efforts by refusing to believe in him. He was personally very excited to see just what the other fighting friend of the boy that had defeated him was capable of. In the ring, Batsu vs. Balrog. Batsu took the moments before the fight mentally going over his recent actions in the previous days and weeks, trying to find what he had done wrong to cause such karmic backlash against him. Meanwhile, Balrog seemed to be smirking and licking his chops at the good fortune of fighting a kid. Oh yeah. Time to get paid. This little tournament's gonna get me a nice payday. 5 million, can't wait. That's a fortune. Upon hearing Balrog's comment to himself in English, Batsu felt the need to comment on his to-be opponent's lack of understanding of the currency exchange rates since he understood the language. Hey. 5 million yen isn't really that much money, dude. Balrog stopped imagining all the money he would be swimming in after whipping these nobodies and started paying rapt attention to Batsu. What? Yeah, Batsu said, a shiver going down his spine at the slight glare coming his way from the dangerous boxer. 5 million yen rounds out to like 60,000 US dollars, or something like that. It's not that much money the way it sounds if it was $5 million. $60,000. That was chump change as far as Balrog was concerned. And he entered a tournament in his spare time for that. Absolutely inconceivable. Damn it. Why didn't anyone tell me that? Because it wasn't anyone else's problem but his. And he looked like he was about to take it out on Batsu just for being the one to break the news to him. Maybe knocking out your teeth will make me feel better about this, runt. Part of Batsu told him to back down. To just walk away, concede the issue, and sit down in the stands before he got himself hurt. It was a very small part of him and its opinion meant nothing in the face of the overwhelming portion of Batsu that did not like being talked down to and challenged by anyone. Oh yeah, well, maybe if I hit you in the head enough, your stupid will actually learn how to count currency. Batsu replied to Balrog's threat heatedly before feigning an epiphany. Oh wait, that's probably what's wrong with you in the first place, you punch-drunk punk bitch. Thank you American TV and movies for assisting with the formation of that insult in English. Quote. Yeah, you're dead, kid. Balrog said as he put his hands up and angrily began stalking towards Batsu to punch some manners into the boy. Didn't he know who he was dealing with there? Because if he didn't he was damn sure about to learn. Too bad Batsu wasn't in the mood to be taught anything by anyone's fists at the moment. And he wasn't about to let the boxer get close enough to try. Batsu held out his left fist before punching it with his other hand to release a wild energy blast that went flying at Balrog, Kaiden guts bullet. Balrog narrowed his eyes at the attack and scoffed, dashing forward with one large striding step and punching the projectile attack head-on, sending it flying away from him and into the crowd where people had to scatter to avoid being hit with it. You ain't keeping me away with little light tricks. In the stands, Sakura's jaw was dropped at seeing someone deflect a ki blast with a punch. How is that even possible? Naruto's teeth clicked irritably as he continued to watch the fight below. Batsu's Kaiden isn't like a Hadoken, or even like my Spitfire move. When it's done right it's tightly compressed, a bit like my Rasengan. When it hits something solid it doesn't just burst like our attacks do, it keeps going until it runs out of energy and gets weaker the further it goes. You can knock it away if you can hit it harder than it's moving. Karin could understand the explanation. The Kaiden's strength and distance relied on momentum generated by the ki needed to form it and would never be stronger than the moment it left Batsu's hands. The further it went the weaker it would get, and it wouldn't explode the way a more volatile attack could. There was no doubt that Balrog had incredible physical strength, and if there were anyone in the tournament with the power to knock away Batsu's Kaiden at will it would have to be him. So his only distance attack wouldn't give him any kind of advantage as long as he didn't have an angle on Balrog. It was worse for Batsu than they had originally speculated. In the ring, Batsu vs. Balrog. As Balrog moved closer, Batsu kept trying to hit him with a Kaiden to no success as Balrog kept on punching them away before finally reaching Batsu. The boxer started swinging away with hooks and crosses that Batsu desperately ducked and swayed out of the way of lest his head wind up in the fifth row. He couldn't backstep his way back out of Balrog's range however. The man had incredible footwork to keep up with the backpedaling Batsu who tried to respond with a high kick, only for Balrog to block it and shrug it off, shoving his shoulder into Batsu's entire body and knocking him back into the ground. Balrog grinned and rushed towards Batsu in a sudden burst of speed as he rolled through the shove and got back to his feet, placing one gloved hand on Batsu's back to pull him in and having the other one ed back to deliver an uppercut, dash low smash, runt. Batsu felt as if Balrog had punched a hole right through his torso as he had been lifted off of his feet, hanging in the air on Balrog's fist, spittle trailing from his open mouth as he desperately tried to in as much air as he could. Pulling his hand back, Balrog let Batsu fall to the ground, but he landed back on his feet, stumbling backwards as he held his stomach. That punch had to have broken some ribs. Come on now, you're no fun. I don't even have any of your blood on my gloves yet. Batsu stopped stumbling around Balrog and stepped towards him before uncorking a return uppercut of his own, fueled with his ki to turn his punching arm red. Balrog got a guard up and blocked it, but it sent him stepping back this time, recoiling at the surprising force that Batsu generated. That little punk had some ridiculous raw strength for someone his size. Mikazukikaro Crescent Moon Kick. A driving kick from Batsu smashed into Balrog's guard once again, surprising the fighter as it seemed like Batsu was fighting more viciously now that he was injured. It was like dealing with some kind of berserker as after the kick, Batsu began pounding away on the boxer's guard with punches, a few actually getting through to hit him on the sides of his body. It was pissing him off because the punches actually really hurt, and he was hitting him around his guard the way a boxer would. Balrog always hated the pipsqueaks that would pepper his body when he was guarding his head, but he had a little something for that. It wasn't exactly legal in the boxing ring, but this was a fight without rules. I'll pulverize you, dirty bull. Balrog grabbed the attacking Batsu's shoulders to hold him in place before delivering a pair of headbutts right to the face that stopped his offense. He stomped harshly on the stunned Batsu's foot and ed his arm back for what looked like a punch, only for him to smash Batsu in the face with his elbow. The only thing that kept Batsu from doing a full 180 and falling to the ground on his face, spinning like a top, was the fact that Balrog still had his foot pinned underneath his own. He did fall to one knee though, with Balrog's foot being the only thing keeping him even partly upright as the man laughed at the damage he had just inflicted. There was nothing technical or pretty about how Balrog had just pummeled Batsu. He hadn't done anything that remotely looked like boxing, and it looked like he had beaten Batsu unconscious were it not for the fact that he could feel that Batsu had a weak grip on his boxing shorts. Are you still trying this? Balrog said before putting a hand on his head to laugh down at Batsu in disbelief. Since when do kids like getting beaten up so much? You're better than the best punching bag money can buy, you know that. He continued to laugh, reaching down to grab Batsu's collar only to stop when the sound of a quite solid thud echoed out through the arena. In the middle of a laugh, Balrog's voice shot up to a squeaky high pitch and his knees began to shake because Batsu had just punched him directly in the testicles with the hardest uppercut he had ever been hit with, cup or not. The thud was the sound of the cup cracking. Balrog gently held his groin area and slowly shuffled away from Batsu, hunched over in pain as he did so and spouting threats in the highest falsetto possible as he tried to walk it off. Meanwhile, Batsu stood back up, his face all sorts of bloody, but with an angry sneer on his face. No rules, right? Not waiting for any sort of response, Batsu charged Balrog down and delivered a punishing uppercut that knocked Balrog into the air as he began to channel all of his ki as he held his left hand out in front of himself. Now block this. Neketsu Zenkai Kiiden, Burning Super Guts Bullet. The punch that let the Guts Bullet loose was so intense that Batsu left the ground to get the force needed to make it work. A blazing red massive ball of unstably compressed ki flew through the air wildly before rising up above the falling Balrog and slamming him into the ground with an explosion. Balrog's body, propelled even harder by Batsu's super-powered Kiiden, left an indentation in the ground where he lay face down. Smoke wafted up from his body as burns permeated his motionless frame and the crowd let up a cheer at the come from behind victory. It's completely improbable, folks. The former world heavyweight boxing champion Balrog has just been defeated by 17-year-old Ikemonji Batsu. Give it up for the winner. This announcement and the pure shock value of the incident did nothing to really help Batsu on his way back to his friends, as enthusiastic fans gave him hearty pats on the back all the way up the stairs. Pure murder on his broken ribs. Upon reaching his row of seats where everyone had been sitting, instead of sitting back in his chair and allowing the others to congratulate him and whatnot, Batsu lay down on the floor on his back, letting out a few grunts of pain in the process. Naruto, Sakura, and Karin just stared at him blankly until Karin motioned for Ishizaki. Ishizaki, please bandage Ikimanji-san's ribs and provide him with some painkillers. Elsewhere in the arena, an extremely handsome man in a very expensive-looking suit sat in his seat, surrounded by beautiful women, as the entire row he was sitting in, as well as the row in front of and behind him, were all clear. The man had long light brown hair kept in one single long braid down his back and blue eyes that seemed to be amused as he shook his head at the sight of Balrog being carted off. Idiot. The man said about Balrog, I'm not his babysitter, so it's not my problem, but he'd better hope that Bison doesn't care if he makes an of himself or not. He held out his hand as a glass was placed into it by one of the women and another filled it with wine. Vega, are you enjoying the show so far? One of them asked him, seemingly fawning over his good looks. Sparing the woman half a glass before taking a sip of his beverage, Vega let off a scoff as if it was not worth his time to comment, this show is worthless to me. He thought to himself instead of openly voicing it, I'm looking for talent. For someone to maybe recruit, but it's all been ho-hum. The boy that defeated Balrog couldn't duplicate that feat in a million years. And everyone here is so unflatteringly unattractive. It's repulsing. Vega himself could have entered this tournament firsthand to really find if there was anyone worth recruiting, but it would have been a waste of his time as far as he was concerned. A small-time tournament like this would pose him no challenge, and all he would have done would have been to work himself up for nothing. But it was so boring. These fights were ugly and had little flair to them, with a minor exception of the first match with the girl that was pretty cute, not nearly as beautiful as himself of course, that the crowd seemed to love. Where was the flash? Where was the showmanship? Did these people have no sense of style? As the tournament continued on after Balrog's loss, Vega was getting more and more irritated. Until he saw something that put a little glimmer of hope into his eye. The winner of his first round bout and advancing to the next round, Uzumaki Naruto. I'd better get some goddamn theme music next time if you gave that jackass Dan a whole entrance with pyro and lights. Naruto's loud and irritated voice shouted over the cheers of the crowd. As his beaten and thoroughly trounced opponent was taken away by doctors, Naruto jumped up on the barricade and played to the fans, best ninja in the world, Datbayo. I don't need a clan, 'cause I'm the man. Well, this was certainly intriguing. A ninja, was he? That was interesting to Vega for his own reasons first and foremost. The way he seemed to handle his opponent as if he himself had been bored with it told quite the story to Vega. He had a flair for the dramatic, or at least was rather boisterous, and unlike that loser Hibiki Dan, he seemed to be able to back that up with action. To say the least, Vega liked what he had seen. He just needed to see a little something more before he decided to make an offer. I think Bison might be pleased with this one.